Hi, my name is Carla Sharp. I'm a community advocate for options, and today we're talking about human trafficking. I did want to share, I went to a human trafficking education event in Hayes on January 19th. Jennifer from ICT SOS End Human Trafficking and Tina from Hope Medical Forensic Services were the speakers, and they were from Wichita. It was really amazing information. And so I just thought I wanted to share some of the notes that I took of that education piece. Um, they they said that if they find a minor that is having sex to like have a roof over their head, have food, clothing, drugs, electronics, whatever, that is considered human trafficking. But if you're 18 or older and you're doing the same thing, it's only human trafficking if it you can prove that you're being manipulated, forced, or tricked to do those things by a trafficker. So I thought that was interesting, something that we don't always hear. Um, Prostitution can be facilitated online, and this she said you can order a person anywhere in the United States, just like you're ordering your supper. And I just want everybody to, I'm going to take a moment and just have you think about that. Um, you can order a person anywhere in the world. So, and then stripping and pornography are a gateway to human trafficking. Um, and they were talking about the profiles of a trafficker and a buyer, and the trafficker profile can be any age. It could be male or female. The buyer profile tends to be male, usually middle-aged white man. Um, then, since COVID has happened and our kids have had to stay home and go to school with computers and all that, they now have 13% of second and third graders reported they have used the internet to talk to other people they do not know. 11% of them were asked to send a picture of themselves, either in their underwear or naked. And so I want parents to realize that I don't care how, if they have a phone when they're 3 years old up to the time that your child leaves home, you need to be aware of everything they're looking at on those computers, and your phones are computers, and just be really aware of all that. Kids can There's people out there that are just waiting to prey on your children, and kids have no idea. They're just talking to somebody and they're being told probably that they're around their age and all those things, and they're really older men and women talking to them. So I just want it's okay for parents to to look at their kids' phones. It's not you're not breaking their rights, getting it's important that you are the parent and you make sure that you know who they're talking to. In 3/8 of 20 to 3/14 of 20, there was reported 379,883 reports of human trafficking on the cyber tip line. And then our country shut down for COVID right after that, and from 3/29/20 to 4/4/20, it tripled to 941,065 on of the human trafficking cyber tip line. So it tripled within that time frame. Human trafficking has become even bigger since COVID because of the lockdowns and everything. Um, Indicators that if you people could be trafficked are like if they have multiple phones, and the reason they may have multiple phones is because their trafficker, they may have more than one trafficker. They may be called to do this by this one and this by the other, and that's why they may have multiple phones. If they have lots of bruising, you might be wondering about that. Malnourished. They all also can be branded with tattoos on their chest, their hands, and their necks. There are traffickers that do brand their victims. Um, Fake IDs, if they're isolated, if they don't look at you, if they let an adult speak for them, um, those are all indicators. And also, when people are involved romantically with their trafficker, because it probably started out that way, um, it can be a lot like the cycle of abuse and domestic violence, where you have that cycle. There's a honeymoon period, there's a tension rising period, and then the episode of abuse, and that's just a cycle that they go through. And this is their way of brainwashing our victims. And the reason the victims stay is because they remember the honeymoon period. That's what keeps them there. So the 33.07% victims are married or in a committed relationship with their trafficker, which they can also have children with their trafficker, and that makes it even harder to get away because the trafficker will keep the kids, and so they won't leave the trafficker because of the kids. When victims of human trafficking come into the ER or medical facilities, they are now trying to do screening questions when people come in if they have an indicator that there might be some human trafficking. The major obstacles they are seeing when they come in is the victim, the attitude is very harsh. Usually they've got their walls up because they've been told they better not let anybody know that they're being trafficked. The victim is given misinformation or false promises. They have a dependency on the trafficker. The victim is very distrustful. They have a lack of knowledge. They're misidentified, and they are bound by fear and coercion. And she said one of the worst questions to ask a human trafficker, victim of a human trafficker, is, "What is wrong with you?" In my mind, I can't imagine someone saying it, but I suppose that happens. She said the most important thing for you to ask is, "Are you okay, and how can I help you? And do you need anything?" Because those we're hoping will help the victim speak out. Victims of human trafficking will usually have mental health and addiction health issues. The ages of these victims are usually 14 to 54, and most human trafficking are women or children, but there are males also. The mental health diagnosis they see in in victims of human trafficking is depression, anxiety, PTSD, schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia, and bipolar. So those are kind of the things that they are seeing in the medical field. One thing that I did want to share, and I did share that this morning on the radio, is Tiffany Martin from KGCR. I'm so sorry, Tiffany. She actually read this on the radio the beginning of the month, and I was just so impressed by it, and so I contacted her and I asked her where she had found it, and she said, "I wrote it," and I was just like very amazed, and so I just felt very compelled to share it, and I asked her if she would allow me to do that, and she said yes. So I do want to read a story that she wrote about human trafficking, and I do think it's a different way to look at human trafficking that we don't always think about. Kirsten and Billy's parents were going out of town for the weekend. Kirsten was a junior in high school, and her older brother was a freshman in college. As soon as the parents left, the party plans began. Billy told Kirsten she could invite a few of her friends as long as no one told their parents, and she had to help clean the house before parents got home. Kirsten called Suzanne, her best friend since third grade, and told her she was invited to the party of the year. There would be college age guys there, alcohol, and so much more. Suzanne had the type of parents that set strict curfews, and there were consequences if rules were broken. The only way they would let Suzanne go was if they didn't know there would be a party with no parents. So she lied. The night didn't get too rowdy. No cops are called. No one got too crazy. Suzanne did meet a nice guy. He was cute and charming and didn't try to take advantage of her. He was a gentleman. He was a genuinely nice guy. They talked most of the night, and when it was time for her to go, he offered to take her home. When they got to her house, they exchanged phone numbers. He kissed her on the cheek and said goodnight. Suzanne and Carter began dating. He would pick her up from school and take her home. They went out to get ice cream and even helped her with homework. Suzanne's parents invited him to dinner one night. Things went well until he left. Suzanne's dad was concerned that Carter was so much older than Suzanne. She objected and said he was only 19 and he was a freshman in college. Her dad wasn't convinced. He seemed older and wiser than a 19-year-old. Something wasn't right and it bothered him. When Suzanne complained to Carter about her parents and their strict rules and curfews, he listened with compassion and empathy. He let her cry on his shoulder. As the weeks went by, Suzanne fell more in love with him. Then one night, Carter picked up Suzanne for a date, and that was the last time her parents had seen their beautiful daughter. Suzanne was sold to human traffickers by her boyfriend, Carter. He wasn't a 19-year-old college student at all. He was a 24-year-old man who was on a lookout for young, pretty girls who he could sell. They call this Romeo pimping. It's when a man tricks a woman into believing they are in a romantic relationship with a future, and then they enslave them or sell them. This does go on, and I just wanted people to be aware, and I thank Tiffany for writing this story. We also need to be aware that Interstate 70 and Interstate 80 are two highways that are most used by traffickers. And so that means they're running through our hometowns. We need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of our surroundings. We are also hearing more and more. I've heard in Colby and Hayes, we have had people with their children being followed by men, taking pictures of their children, doing all sorts of things. So we need to be aware of that, and we need to let the managers know. We need to call the police. We need to just be aware. So I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I do want you to be aware of what's going on. If you would like to talk any more about human trafficking, or you can call me at 800-794-4624, and I'd be glad to talk to you about it. Thank you.